When they were taking the next island, which were the Marshall Islands, they flew from Macon and maybe other places to bomb, and I don't know what else they did, but anyhow, it was just Macon wasn't wide at all, but it was just a long strip of coral with palm trees, So and they did have
it's an atoll, it's not an island really.
Oh no, not at all, atoll, yeah. So now what?
So who built you the quarters? You said that the Seabees built your quarters?
I forget, what do you call them? What's the name of Seabees?
Seabees, yeah.
Yeah, that's the Seabees built them.
So the Navy Seabees built your quarters.
And
you each had your own little room?
We each had a room. We had a little living room and a bathroom. Now that is another story too. I'll go into that right now.
Please.
Okay. We, I guess, I know the water was terrible. We couldn't drink it. I guess we could brush our teeth and have showers, but we couldn't have indoor commodes. We had to have an outhouse. So we had an outhouse. So I don't know. It was in plain view because the powers that be discovered that the patients in the tents around that most of our patients were in tents, and they were taking bets on who would be the first one out the door to go to the outhouse. So the powers that be said they couldn't have that, so they put up a fence of palm fronds, so the patients couldn't see who went first.
So you get a little privacy.
And we were on display the whole time. You can imagine 12 white girls and there.
How many GIs do you figure?
I have no clue. It must have been quite a few.
Hundreds? Hundreds?
Yeah, hundreds.
Thousands?
Yeah, well, I'm sure. A few thousand, maybe. I have no idea. I don't know. I didn't take census, But let's see, what else? Well, did you go ahead and see what else you're going to ask me?
So they built you separate quarters. Your duties as a nurse, what kind of facilities did you have?
Tents.
Tents? Hospitals or tents?
Yes. Maybe the surgical ward was below. I was on a medical ward. I had the dengue fever patients. Seemed like all the GIs had dengue fever. It was prevalent. It was mosquito borne, and it was hot and humid and rain. If it wasn't rain, the sun was beating down. It wasn't a pleasant place.
This is right on the equator, isn't it?
Yes, we were on the equator.
No air conditioning and anything.
What? We didn't have ice. We had nothing fresh, and we had no ice. No, you could buy hot beer and hot Coke at the PX, but no ice. Sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and then what's he dull? Well, ask me something else.
Well, what's a typical duty day like? Apparently you don't have combat casualties because the war fighting is farther away.
I think
You did have some combat casualties?
Maybe some that, they were resisting when they were taking the Marshalls. The Japanese were shooting at the planes, and we'd get wounded airmen back. I didn't have that duty. I had medical, but they did come in there.
So you did have some back.
Some,
mostly,
but I'm sure not a lot.
Mostly air crews.
Yeah.
As combat casualties.
So, and we had our 8 hours on and off. I don't know either. I know I had a dengue ward is all I know.
So that must have been tough if this is a fever type thing and you got no air conditioning and it's in the equator. Very uncomfortable.
It is. It wasn't pleasant. It was really monotonous and dull. But the dullest thing was the food. We didn't have anything fresh for 9 months that we were there. And eating beans fixed 3 ways in one meal gets old, But we survived. And then we tried, when we were off duty, trying to think of something to do, we had a volleyball court, and we'd play with the doctors were in tents around one side, and we would play volleyball. And then we had a reef, because this was an atoll, we had this reef, I don't know, I'd say 100 yards. I could just see it, but I can't. And then when the tide was out, we could go out. It was relatively flat and like tide pools, and we could look for shells. And the patients would make shell necklaces for their wives or girlfriends or whatever. And we'd just go out and spend ages looking for shells and finding shells. And then we'd come in and bury them in the sand so the little critters under there could eat their insides out. And I never dug up a shell, and I left bushels of them over there. It was just fun finding the things, But that was it. It was just so dull. But occasionally, the Navy would come in. Must have been small ships, and why they ever came there. But they would invite us out for a meal, once in a great while, for something fresh, But why they came, don't ask me. I don't know.
Did they have ice along with fresh fruit?
I think they must have. I can't remember anything, but it was such a joy to go out there and eat whatever they had. Oh, well.
Well, I think the Navy's always had better food than the Army.
Yes, that's true. That's
regardless of the war or not in war. Of course, you were married before you went out there, so you're not in the dating scene.
No.
So you're just spending your off-duty time with your fellow nurses.
And as groups, maybe I think I have some pictures with some of the airmen over. We were all there together. I don't think anybody ever separated and went off on a date. I didn't. I was married. Our chief nurse was married, and one of the other girls, the 3 of us out of the 12 were married. And no, we behaved ourselves. We were good girls.
You said you were there for roughly 9 months? Mm-hmm. Were you ever under attack while you were there?
No.
No Japanese bombers got by, or no offshore ships shooting shells at the islands?
No, it must have been 2 months. I don't know how. 3 months. I don't know how long it was before they even had allowed nurses on the Macon. I don't know, but we weren't.
So the fighting has moved on quite a ways from the
and Macon
Gilberts.
never was a big. Tarawa was a huge battle, and we lost a lot of men. But Macon was taken by a group called Carlson Raiders. We're famous for apparently not many Japanese on Macon. I don't know, but I've heard of Carlson Raiders.
I don't know the details of that, so, but you heard
Neither
of it.
do I. I just know they took the island.
Do you have any idea why they sent you back
Back what?
to the United States?
Oh, yes.
What?
As I said, they were taking the Marshall Islands. And when they secured the Marshall Islands, they sent another group of field hospital nurses there on Kwajalein. And then we were relieved of duty, and they closed down Macon, so to speak. I don't know what happened after we left, but
So they're moving the field hospitals closer to the combat zones.
exactly.
and
We
you
were taking the islands all the way to Japan, wherever,
Yep.
But that's just the way I understand it,
Okay. Do you have any other comments or observations about having a very unique situation where you're 12 young female nurses in the middle of hundreds or even thousands of GIs? That's quite an experience.
Well, coming home, I'll tell you a funny one. I think I told you, and you said it's all right to tell this. Well, we were relieved of duty, and just to get back the best way you can. Our chief nurse, I love her, but she was married, and her husband was a dentist, and he had been on Saipan, and he was back on Oahu. And she knew that. And of course, she wanted to get back there as fast as she could, you know. So who could blame her? So when you get a plane out of there, you caught it and went. So 3 of the nurses went, and 3 more went, and 4 more went. And then that left 5 of us, the last nurses, off of the island. So we all were able to get on this. It's a stripped down bomber, I think. We sit around inside the fuselage on a bench around the, you know, perimeter. And
Goodness.
And it was us 5 nurses, and they were GIs, and they were big, kind to us. They were offered us cold Cokes and whatever, you know. And we noticed the facilities were behind a curtain right over in the corner of this fuselage, and a bucket in there with a curtain around. And we noticed that, you know. We says, uh-oh, you know. So, and we curtailed our drinking, shall I say. We got to this little island of Johnston Island to refuel, I guess, and got off the plane, and we were in bad shape. So, but here, one of the GIs happened to have a little dog on board, and he bounded down those steps and squatted down there and let her rip, you know. And one of the girls, we almost had to carry her to the Officers Club because we, you know, I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling this or not, but it happened. It was the truth, you know.
Absolutely.
So anyhow, we finally made it back to Oahu, and we were assigned to 22nd Station Hospital. I'll never forget that number. And it was a temporary situation in we called it a gulch. It was the big valley, and pineapple fields here and pineapple fields here, and it was just the wards were, if you were down in that valley, they were all strung out down there, and we thought we were supposed to be treated better. We'd been off to war, you know. Mm-hmm. and here we were in this crummy place, you know. And we were little nasty little girls for a while, but we learned to like it, you know.
Were you on duty then, or is this just a temporary?
We were on duty.
Okay, you're on duty. In another field hospital?
Yes. Well, I don't know. Station hospital it was called.
Station hospital.
No, it wasn't
like
a field hospital.
The big permanent hospital.
It wasn't a big permanent. It was temporary, but wood. It wasn't like Schofield Barracks had been there forever. This was just built for the war, I think. Yeah, I know it was. So, anyhow, we were there. Now, where am I?
You're at this station hospital near Schofield Barracks on Oahu.
Yeah,
You've come back from Macon Island. So, how long were you there? This was temporary, but how long were you there?
Well, a few months. Because Gordon.
Couple months.
So,
okay.
Directive had come down that because the war was winding down, and I don't know if we had already bombed in Hiroshima or not by then, but anyhow, Gordon was already at DeWitt General in California at Auburn.
So he's in California.
And the directive came down, if you had, a nurse was over there and had a husband home injured, or usually we got to come home on what they call points. If you'd been there certainly at the time, you got points for this and this and this. But I fell in this category. You know, if you have a husband there back home, you can be reassigned to the States, not be discharged. But so you had
priority now.
I did. Mm-hmm. And so I came back to San Francisco on a hospital ship. Okay. Just for transportation. So I couldn't, no way I could stay in California. I had to go back to my point of induction, where I was inducted. So I got a delay to go see Gordon for a few days, and then on the train again back to South Carolina to Camp Croft, where I was inducted. And so I was reassigned, but in the meantime I had to, this was July the 10th or something, anyhow, I had to go to Miami Beach for rest and relaxation in July.
They made you go there.
Yeah,
and
you
your
had
husband's
to
in
go.
California.
You had to go. You had to go. And luckily, my sister had a car, and she and some friends said they'd drive me down there. You know, so they did. So I went to this lovely hotel on Collins Avenue in Miami Beach, and for a week, I guess. Then back on the train to Van Nuys to be that was where I was reassigned to Birmingham Hospital. It's now a high school, Birmingham High School, but it was a big hospital, and I was assigned there. And eventually, I was discharged from the Army, just like, I can't remember the date, but in 45, I guess it was.
So you were involuntarily discharged, or you decided, you just told them I wanted to get out?
Oh, I wanted to get out. Well, I guess well, the war was over, and if you weren't regular Army, everybody got discharged. Yeah, right. So, what?
So now
Have I just rattled on and I haven't looked at my stuff here?
Well,
Guess I haven't needed it.
if you want to take a moment and look at, maybe you've
Oh, I
forgotten
finished,
some of
haven't
your...
I? I've already finished. You mean, no, I don't think so. I believe I
Okay, I have
covered
a
it.
couple of other questions.
Okay.
Now, both of you and your husband are serving in combat at the same time. Do you have any way that you can communicate with each other?
Yes.
I mean, this is before, you know, iPads and Skype and all that kind of stuff. So what?
Was it VJ mail or there's
How could you do it?
something you fold over, and I didn't think that we didn't have to put a stamp on it, but it was just short little. Wasn't that right, Gordon? Something. But mail, you wouldn't get mail for weeks, and then maybe you'd get 3 or 4 letters, you know, or for what he didn't write that often, and I guess I didn't either. He was there, and he was busy, and I was, you know, so. But we no way to communicate.
Really?
And it was, on Macon, I forgot to, that was a kind of a sorry time for me. My brother, he was shot down he was a tail gunner, I guess it was, on a bomber in Europe. He was shot down while I was on Macon. And that's when I got a telegram that Gordon had been wounded when I was on Macon. Everything happened when I was on Macon, you know. So, but
Did you know the extent of his wounds? You said you got a telegram, said your husband had
no,
been
I didn't.
wounded.
Well, until he could write about it. Yeah.
So that's been a very anxious time
Well,
for
it
you.
was. It was.
Yes.
It was.
Do you have any reflections about, just overall reflections about serving your country in wartime and in combat, which is very unusual during the Second World War?
You know,
You were in a very unusual position.
I